Hey guys, welcome back. It's Claytano. Thank you so much for tuning in as always. And today's video is a beginner item guide for Auto Chess Mobile. Let's go. Don't forget guys, every time you comment and like one of my videos this month, you'll be entered to win a Samsung tablet. Just make sure you're subscribed to the channel and hit the bell so you're notified whenever I post a video, because the more videos you comment on, the higher your chances are to win. Good luck. Hey guys, so yeah, if you haven't subscribed already, be sure to do so. You can enter to win a Samsung tablet if you just comment on the video below. But, so I have talked about items on my previous videos, but I did want to make a dedicated video just for items itself to literally go through every single item in the game and things you should be looking out for and things you should keep in mind while you are placing items onto units. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the illustrated guide right here and then just click on equipment. And this is how you guys can actually access all the information about every single item in the game. Now, for those of you that are super new, items only drop from creep rounds that are on round 1, 2, and 3. Also round 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, and 50. And then 55, the game actually ends. We actually got up to around 55 when I was playing a viewer game on my stream, twitch.tv/Claytano. If you guys haven't followed already, you should probably just go do that. It's free and I stream every day. About 10 hours a day is what I've been doing on Twitch. But yeah, so just go here guys and you can pull up every single item in the game. Now, the one thing that I just want to kind of lead with right now is that there's not a single item in the game that you can put onto a unit that actually makes them worse, other than one specific item. And that is this item right here, the Frantic Mask. So the reason why it can make your unit worse is because it silences the hero. So you want to know what silence means, and silence is basically not being able to use any active skills. Let's actually pick what I would consider to be the #1 mythical unit that you can pretty much pick in any single comp and have it make an impact on your team. And that's the nice pre-8 captain, or pirate captain, obviously. And this is your Kunkka equivalent if you are coming over from the PC version. Pirate captain has this awesome third skill that summons a ghostly ship and smashes the target area, causing 2 seconds. Depends on, obviously what star grade he is. But this is an extremely important skill because it's an AoE stun and it locks them down for 2 seconds. And a lot can happen in 2 seconds, as you guys are aware of. But if we put the Frantic Mask onto Pirate Captain, he won't send a ghostly ship out. And he'll basically just be doing DPS by smashing them with his sword. And that's not really what he's used for. Pirate Captain is there to send his ship out, stun a huge area of the board, and allow your other damage dealing units to do the damage. So if he's silenced, he doesn't get this off. And it's very similar to how it works with the human silence. All friendly humans have 20% chance to silent target for 4 seconds when attacking. If they are silenced, it's the same thing. Okay, if you're silencing somebody else with the human passive, they're basically using a Frantic Mask almost because they're silenced as well. So it's the same type of silence. It's the same idea behind it, is if you're silenced, you can't use your skill. That's basically what silencing means, is that you can't use any skills. Now, passive skills, however, do still work. So if we take, for example, a nice passive unit like the beautiful Berserker, he has this skill, Battle Fervor. I don't think I have a 3-star, no. So he has Battle Fervor. With each continuous blow on the same target, gaining a bonus of 20% attack speed up to 9 stacks. After changing targets, the stacks drop to 0. None of this means that he has to cast a skill. He doesn't have mana, which means it doesn't matter if he's silenced because he doesn't have any skill to actually cast, right? So in fact, Frantic Mask is actually one of the best items you can put onto a Berserker because he's getting that lifesteal, getting that increased attack speed bonus and all that good stuff as well, because the more attacks that he gets, the higher his attack speed in. So the faster he can get the first ones in, the higher he can actually up his attack speed throughout the battle. But yeah, so this is an example of a unit you want to put the Frantic Mask on. So I'm going to test you guys, all right? I'm going to show you guys 3 units now. And you can just feel free to test yourself, or if you guys want to like pause the video and kind of answer along the way, then you'll start to get the hang of things a little bit more. So I'm going to pull up a monster just randomly, and I'm going to show you guys the skill, and then you can kind of just like answer. You can comment down below if you guys want to, or just like answer in your head, whatever. So the next unit that I'm going to pull up is the Light Blade Knight. So you tell me if Frantic Mask would be good or bad on her, okay? All right, so Moonglaze. Attacks bounce between enemy pieces for at most 3 times, reducing 30% damage every time it bounces. As a passive skill, would you put Frantic Mask on her, or would you not put Frantic Mask on her? Okay, the answer is you would absolutely put Frantic Mask onto the Light Blade Knight because she has a passive skill. So we're gonna try just 2 more here. And the next one's gonna be the Dragon Knight, one of my favorite chess pieces or characters, champions, whatever, in the game. And he has this skill, Resonance. So he actually transforms into a powerful dragon form, granting additional 2 grids of attack range and 200 attack damage, slows the speed of enemy units, and deals magical damage to enemy units in splash range over time. And the cooldown is 60 seconds. This one's a little bit harder. This is why I actually picked him, because he, in fact, would absolutely be devastated if you put a Frantic Mask on him. He'd almost become useless. And the reason why is because he does have mana. So if you silence him, then he will no longer be able to turn into his dragon form, and that's when he does all that damage. Even though it seems like, okay, yeah, more attack damage, more attack speed, lifesteal, like this is all good things to put onto the Dragon Knight, well, he actually won't turn into his other form if he is silenced. So no, absolutely do not put that on him because he will be absolutely useless. All right, so the last unit that I want to test you guys with is the Doom Arbiter. All right, I do have his 3-star unlocked. Looks pretty fancy. It's like a pig almost, really is what he is. This one's a little bit interesting. And I want you guys to maybe answer your answers in the comment section below. If you guys have already commented, maybe just edit your answer and then like add in all of them and your reasoning why. But this Doom Curse silences an enemy piece, dealing 120 pure damage in 20 seconds with a cooldown of 10 seconds. So some people would say, no, don't put a Frantic Mask onto Doom Arbiter. Other people say the amount of DPS that he would gain with that is worth the amount of DPS he would deal along with the silence. So personally, I would say to actually not put a Frantic Mask onto Doom Arbiter because I feel like the silence is super important because he is an extremely smart unit where he tends to silence like the specific unit that you need to have silence. So he's super smart, and I feel like that's extremely valuable, more so than the actual DPS that he's putting out. And most of the time, you're gonna have a DPS in the back line doing more damage than he is actually doing in the front line, like Berserker that we just saw, that it's actually a warrior that pairs very nicely with the Doom Arbiter. But there are some people that say Frantic Mask on Doom Arbiter is godly, and they love it. Personally, I think not, but there is certain exceptions where you can put Frantic Mask onto some types of DPS units that aren't typically DPS units. Like I've seen people use, and I've personally used a Frantic Mask on a Hell Knight before. It was kind of cool, but honestly, I would say just save that and put it on one of the backline units that's doing more DPS like from afar. So with that being said, you guys did a great job as well, by the way. I totally can tell exactly what you guys were thinking, and you got all those right for sure. I know you guys got those right. But yeah, so that's the main one we want to focus on because that's the only thing that could actually ruin a certain monster, and you never want to, or you'll definitely never make the same mistake twice of putting a Frantic Mask onto a unit and then he's just not using his skills and you're like, what is he actually doing? And then you realize that you have to sell that unit because it's just a wasted piece on the board. The other thing that I want to tell you guys about is that when you put an item onto a unit, you cannot remove it from them unless you sell that unit. Once you sell that unit, it then goes back into your item arsenal. At that point, you have to sell it to get it back. That's why I'm saying you have to sell your unit. if you do put a frantic mask on him, because that's the only way you can get rid of it from him. You can't remove it. So keep that in mind. If you have a super important item, which I'm going to teach you guys in today's video of which ones are super important, but if you have a super important item and you put it onto a unit that you're definitely going to keep in your team and not going to sell, then it might hinder your team's performance. But keep in mind, if you are early game and you know that you're going to sell a specific unit, like say you build a bunch of 2-stars early game because it's a good strategy, you have a little extra HP and damage and stuff like that, and you got a bunch of items from like the Treant, Echons, or whatever they're called, like the first 3 rounds, right? You get items from there and you're like, okay, I'm just going to throw some items onto these units because I'm probably going to sell them later on, and I just want that extra oomph to possibly grab some wins, which is what I do. Then that's fine, but just keep in mind, like, you're going to sell them later on. If you don't sell that unit later on, that item's going to be on there until they sell it. Okay? Plain and simple. So with that in mind, would you / should you put a Dracula mask onto a unit that you think you will eventually keep in your team and still want them to use their skills? No, probably not. Because if you get a stick or wooden club, if you get a wooden club from a creep later on, like say round 25 or something like that, and you have, say, your Siren or your Pirate Captain, again, for example, with a 5% lifesteal Dracula mask on it that only goes into a frantic mask, it doesn't combine into anything else, I would really never put a Dracula mask onto my Pirate Captain or literally anybody that I really want to do skills, unless I know that for sure, even if I get another wooden club, I would be perfectly fine with not putting it on that specific unit because I don't want it to turn into a frantic mask. And if I put the Dracula mask preemptively onto a Lightblade Knight that I know that is going to benefit from a frantic mask later on, if I do happen to get a club, then I'm just having those little extra stats while I'm playing through the couple of rounds until I get the wooden club. So knowing what items combine into other items will mostly improve your game tremendously, because you're gaining those extra little stats early on and not wasting those items just sitting in your item arsenal throughout those early stages. So you preemptively put items onto units that will eventually turn into better items, and you don't have to sell units to get those items back off and put them onto somebody else. So piece by piece now, here we go. You guys are still with me, following. If you haven't already liked the video, be sure to do so now, because I'm sure you've learned something at this point, right? So this shield grants 100% chance to block 10 damage while being attacked. Cool. That can literally be used on anybody. You can be used on your damage dealer, you could be used on your tank. Anybody could benefit from being a little bit tankier. Really what it is. But keep in mind though, a lot of teams have a frontline tank, like they have tank units in the front line, and they have their squish units in the back line. That's like general knowledge. That's like basic battle strategies from way back when people started battling each other. You put your tanky units in the front and you put your squishy archers in the back, and it's just like basic common knowledge. The longer those tanky units stay alive, the longer your squish units don't get attacked by the enemy team, because they kind of have to get through those tanks first before they can actually get through your squish units. So generally I would put tank, block damage, magic resistance, HP, those types of tanky items, I would put those on your frontline units. Even if it's like more of a frontline damage dealer, I would still put it on your frontline, because when he dies, then they have a hole to get to your squish units. So the longer he can stay alive, the longer your squish units can stay alive, the more DPS you do, the higher chance you have to win. So keep that in mind as we go through the rest of these items. It's going to get quicker as we go along. Right now we're only on item 1. So the Ring of Regen grants life regeneration increase by 5. So again, you want to put this on a tanky unit because it's going to lasts longer, the more HP it regens back, the more effective HP it has, meaning the more DPS that somebody else has to do before they can get through that tanky line. And I am going to make a video about different tank units and different backline units and how you guys should be setting up your units positioning wise, like team building wise and all that stuff. So that's coming. I just want to get these taken care of because I feel like this is something that's easy enough for you guys to catch on with pretty quickly, and it will really benefit your game as well. All right, so next up is the Crystal of Devil Blood, and your attack reduced the target's armor by 3 for 5 seconds. You could put this on your backline damage dealers, you could put this on your front line tanks, as long as they're attacking with a basic attack. If you put it on the damage dealer is attacking that unit that's armor is being reduced. If you put it onto a tank unit, that tank might be focusing on somebody like a tank right in front of them, but the damage dealer might not be focusing on that specific unit that's right in front of them that you're reducing the armor on. But if you put it on the unit that's actually doing the DPS, they're reducing the armor that the DPS unit is attacking because that item is on the specific DPS unit anyway. That would make more sense. But is it the end of the world if you put it onto somebody else? No, because at the end of the day, the person's armor is still getting reduced. It's just not focused as optimally if it's not on your DPS unit. Bone Claw, attack damage increased, pretty plain and simple. Put this on somebody that's doing DPS. Elf Headwear. So this is getting into a little bit more complicated of a idea. And this is going to gain 50% mana regeneration while dealing damage. So with this item, this is a little bit spicier, right? So mana regeneration is useless on some units. Would you put this on a Lightblade Knight? No. Would you put this on a Berserker? No. Why would we not put these on Berserkers? Because they don't have mana. What units would benefit really good from this are units that have super important ultimates that you want them to get off quickly. So who are those units that are going to have super important ultimates that you want to put that on? Really, we could just go down the list. Dark Spirit for sure. Devastator, Helicopter, Tsunami Stalker, Blight Sorcerer, Shining Assassin, Doom Arbiter, maybe not so much. I mean, you can put that on him, but like, I would save it for maybe a more important unit with a more important ultimate. Venomancer, meh, I wouldn't put it on him. Tortola Elder, absolutely. He has a super important ultimate, and he's a mage, so the faster he can gain his mana, the more he can do damage-wise. Dragon Knight, I wouldn't put this on Dragon Knight because anytime I use Dragon Knight, I'm using dragons with him, and the dragon passive is that they all start with 100 mana when the battle starts, meaning that instantly they get 100 mana, and instantly he turns into a dragon, meaning instantly that Elf Headwear is instantly useless if you put it onto Dragon Knight because he already gains 100 mana anyway, so why would he need mana regeneration if he already is going to turn into a dragon? It's like stupid, right? Pirate Captain, he would extremely benefit from that. Siren would benefit tremendously. Soul Reaper, absolutely. Okay, test number 2. Yeah, I didn't tell you guys there was going to be a test, did I? But there is. Would I put this on her? Has a 10% chance of delivering a critical strike of 3 times. Would I want to put a mana regeneration item onto Shadowcrawler? No, she has a passive. She doesn't have mana. So why are we trying to regenerate mana on a unit that doesn't have mana? It's called waste. But you guys start to get the idea. Do they have an ultimate that you want them to get off early and quickly and be able to do it from afar as well? Like Siren, she's a ranged unit and she can still gain her ultimate up by gaining mana from afar. Because you also gain mana from being attacked, and if you don't want that unit to get attacked, but you still want them to gain mana, that's a great unit to put that piece of equipment on. Okay, next, Kappa. Kappa. Your attack reduced the target's magic resistance by 20% for 5 seconds. So a Kappa would be great on a Dragon Knight because he is a damage-dealing magic damage dealing unit. You would want to put this really on any magic damage dealing unit, just like the Crystal of Devil Blood. It's the same basic idea. You know, You want to put this on units that are going to reduce the target's armor. Armor is physical damage. You're reducing their physical damage. So if you're doing physical damage on a specific unit, that's your DPS unit, you want to put the Crystal of Devil Blood on them. If your DPS is a mage unit, they're probably going to be attacking a unit, right? Gaining up their magic damage, and then, or gaining up their mana, and then they're going to release some type of skill that's going to do a lot of magic damage, aka Thunder Spirit, that type of thing. Cattlehide armor, gain additional armor by 5. That's pretty plain and simple. Just put it on your tank units. Magic resistance increased by 50%. Put it on your tank units again. Unless you have like super hyper carries where if that unit dies, you know, you're kind of screwed at that point. I wouldn't necessarily recommend building that type of team. But sometimes you want to put tanky items onto your DPS units if they have a lot of AoE and they're damaging your backline units pretty easily. Like if they're building assassins or something like that and they just keep getting through to your backline. It's annoying, but it's true. All right, so the next item is Ring of Life. Life regeneration increased by 10, so it's basically the same as this, but doubled just in one specific item. Now you can have up to a maximum of 6 items on a single unit. So, I mean, this is basically just taking up 1 space instead of this would take up 2 space to have the same effect. And then also this, be careful with this one. And the reason why I say be careful with this one is because it pairs with this, the Magicka Crystal. And the Magicka Crystal is basically double the effect of Elf Headwear. So it's 50% for Elf Headwear, 100% for Magicka Crystal. But the Magicka Crystal combines with the Orb of Regen, or it combines into the Orb of Regen with the Ring of Life. And you see how that works out there. So again, like say I have a Siren that I know that I'm going to want to increase her mana at a high rate later on in the game or just whenever, and I get a Ring of Life, I can preemptively put this item on her before it actually really benefits her that much, because I know that once I get a Magicka Crystal, I can turn it into an Orb of Regen, and then she has life regeneration increased by 10, 100% mana regeneration while dealing damage, and then if I get 2 of these, then they turn into the Orb of Refresh, which is insane because this refreshes your ability after casting it, and the cooldown is 30 seconds, so you can ult twice, right? You reset your ability, you gain mana by 200%, and then you do your ultimate once, it refreshes it, you gain your mana back up, and you do it again, and it's super OP. And so you can preemptively put this onto like Siren or anybody that you think you're going to put a Magicka Crystal on. I've gotten so close to getting the Orb of Refresh so many games, and I just haven't gotten it yet though. All right, we've already talked about Wooden Club. We've talked about Dracula Mask. Magicka Staff goes into a couple different items here, but it could either go onto a damage dealing person. Again, same, if you're doing magic damage, you probably want to put it onto your magic damage dealing people. Again, Thunder Spirit would be a good one. Tortola Elder would be a good one. Flaming Wizard would be a good one. Those types of units. Your attacks reduce the target's magic resist by 100% for 5 seconds. And that's by using this Magicka Staff. So if you get that, you know, preemptively just put it on there. Reduce the magic resistance by 30% for 5 seconds. Also, if you pair it with a Elf Headwear, you gain 50% mana from the Elf Headwear. And then you can turn it into this, and you are doing both. You're increasing your mana as well as reducing the target's magic resistance by 30%. So ultimately, you would want to put this on probably like a mage damage dealing unit or a magic damage dealing unit, whatever you guys want to call it. Yeah, super strong though. All right, so the next item is Life Crystal, and this one's like, I like this one. It just increases your HP by 250, just like that. Easy, done. It's really all it is. And again, it's beneficial on any unit. I would typically put it on my frontline tank units because, again, the longer they last, the longer your DPS lasts, etc. And it combines into some pretty cool items as well. So that's the other thing you guys want to start doing as well. If you know that this item and this item go into an item, like don't put this on one of your tank units and then spread it out and then put like this on another one of your units, because then if you get this, it won't combine because you have one item on that unit, you have one item on that unit, and then you need to sell one of the units to get that item back in order to combine it onto the other unit that has both of them. So just be careful on those, and it would be beneficial to kind of study up on the combinations, or at least just take a peek of what they combine into at their final form, and if that's something that you want to have potentially happen on a unit. Because it'll tell you in game, it'll have like a little check mark, and it'll say like you have this one and you have this one, but you don't have this one. And then when you get that one, it'll say, okay, do you want to combine all of them? But they have to be on one specific unit, because if they're split, GG basically. Fish fork, attack damage increase, put it on your damage dealing units. Also, another quick strategy as well is because if you are dealing more damage, you're gaining more mana. So even though you're technically not using a like elf headwear or magicka crystal to gain your mana back, sometimes if you really want, like really want a unit to deal damage from afar and still gain their mana, aka Siren's a really good one for this, or on some of the legendaries as well, like Helicopter wants to deal a lot of damage from afar, doesn't really want to touch anybody, just kind of wants to shoot things from back, in the back. These would be good on them because you might not get one of these, but you still want them to gain their mana a little bit quicker, so they gain mana by dealing more damage. All right, Broken Sword. This one can go a couple different ways. Basically, you can deal damage by 20, but it's kind of nice to put this on your tanks, but kind of nice to put it on your damage dealers as well. So the reason why is because of this. So this returns 20% of any damage taken by the unit, taken back to the unit. So if you take damage, it's like, what's the word? What's that one in League of Legends? Thornmail or something like that. So it like deals damage back to the attacker. So if you have tanky frontline units and they're taking a lot of damage, it's dealing that damage back to them, and then you have like all of these other regen items on them, so they gain their HP back and the enemy is attacking them. So you're doing DPS just by taking damage, which I like to do. And this item right here is like pretty common, Kettlehide armor. So if you happen to get one of these, like you can kind of go one of which way. Although this item goes into a super cool damage dealing item, so at the same time you're like, you know, weighing out your odds. Like, is it better to have the chance to go for this legendary item, or is it better to just like kind of sell out and just go for the blade mail? But you can go one of two ways with that item. I like to put it on my damage dealer because I like to go for the legendary items. I like to, you know, roll the little RNG luck chance and hopefully get a ghost blade, and then throw it onto Dragon Ballista, which is crazy. 10% chance to deal 4 times of damage while attacking. It's crazy. I love it. All right, so that's that item. This item, increased armor by 10, goes into this. And again, make sure you're not like splitting up your items into different people poorly, because you don't want them to get like, you don't want to have all the items and not be able to combine them. So just kind of study up on it. Grants 10 armor and 15% attack speed to all allies in 1 radius. So this is like a little aura, right? So if you're a tank and you want to like have a bunch of people around you do a lot more attack, or have a lot more attack speed, you just put them right in the middle of all the units that you want to do damage. But I never really actually ever made this, because if I do happen to get a Wraith Shard, I'm putting that on my DPS unit all day. Attack speed increased by 30%. They're sitting in the back, they're doing way more damage than that attack speed increase would typically do. Unless you're building like Glacier Clan, it would be kind of cool to have something sit in the middle and just like increase their attack speed even more than it already is, which might be insane. But that Wraith Shard is not a very common item, and when you get it, you can do some pretty cool things with it. So that's the Steel Plate Mail. Rune Hammer, attack damage increased by 15. Again, just put it onto your damage dealers. Once we start going through these, they're just a little bit better, and we've already kind of talked about most of them as well. Attack speed increased by 30%. This, again, just put it on your damage dealer, or, you know, or not if you don't want to. It doesn't have to go on them, but I would say put it on your damage dealer. And Nether Essence. This one's a good one to talk about because this is a little bit different. So it increases your HP by 250, which is basically this. But then also helps you gain 25% mana regeneration while being attacked. So I like to put this on some of my legendary units endgame, or even some of my mythical units that I want to have out in the front, take damage, and then just ultimate as soon as possible. One of the good examples for this would be Tsunami Stalker or the Dark Spirit, because they have mana, they have super important ults and super valuable ults, and typically you just want them to like do their ult and die. Like that's all that really matters. So Nether Essence is great for that because they do their ult and it helps them stay around long enough to actually get their ult off. Like this on a 1-star legendary makes them way better as a 1-star, and then when they turn to a 2-star, they actually have some decent HP where they can last even without it. But still, this is something that I would recommend putting on one of your super important legendary ultimate type units. Okay. Ghostblade, 30 attack damage increased by 30, or attack damage increased by 30, whatever. And this again pairs with the Dragon Crystal Sword for the Dragon Bone Ballista. You can also do the Killer Bot if you happen to get the Infused Mass, which is another damage increase by 50, which increases your damage by 150, which is insane. But basically that's what that means. You could also make a Monkey King bar by having a couple other commons with it as well. Again, so if you see a wooden club, you can either decide, okay, I'm gonna make that, or I'm gonna maybe potentially get both of these and then add a Ghostblade to it later on if I happen to get lucky enough to get one. Magical Staff. Your attack reduces the target's magic resistance by 40% for 5 seconds. Gain 100% mana regeneration while dealing damage. So we already know what type of unit we would want to put this on. Again, magic damage dealing unit. You're decreasing the enemy's magic resistance while gaining 100% mana. So you're dealing, like lowering their magic resistance, gaining your mana, and then killing them with magic in order to do damage, right? And then it turns into this if you have all these other items, which I've never seen this thing before because like both of these items here are super rare anyway. And then this isn't like the most common item either. But it's pretty insane if you happen to get this. Magic resistance by 20% for 5 seconds. Gain 50% mana regeneration while dealing damage and being attacked. And being attacked, by the way. So not just while dealing damage, but also while being attacked. And HP increased by 250. Active turns a random enemy unit into a harmless frog for 5 seconds on a 30-second cooldown. So it turns them to a frog, kind of like the Defector skill. You could get that with this item on any unit you want to. Kind of cool. All right, what do we have next? It's the Orb of Regen. We already went over this. We have the Anti-Maga Cloak. Now this actually can't be dropped, neither can the Orb of Regen, but all these get dropped by your bosses. These ones do not. These ones are the same rarity, but they're created by other items. So you'll never see like an Orb of Regen drop from a wolf or anything like that, right? This life regeneration increased by 15, magic resistance increased by 30%. Again, just put that on somebody tanky that you like. Keeping in mind what items are going on which specific units, so that way if you do happen to get all 3 of them, you can combine them together. Frantic Mask. Okay, so let's talk about, I'm just kidding, we already talked about Frantic Mask. Voodoo Staff, we already talked about that as well. Crystal Sword, already talked about that. Kind of, yeah, 50% chance to deal 1.5 times of damage. That's basically this combined with the Ghostblade, right? Just put it on your physical damage dealing units. Now, what do you say? What do I put this on, Clay? Hey, what do I put this on if I'm not building physical damage dealing units? Put it on anybody at that point, then it's just gonna do damage. So just anybody, yeah, just anybody. Just put it on. If you have this and you're not putting it on somebody, I will come to your house. Don't test me. Okay. We already talked about this. Mealstorm. It's a obviously a little typo there, but it's Maelstrom. And this comes from the fish fork as well as the rune hammer, which increases attack. This is a good item though, because dealing 100 magical damage to at most 3 enemy pieces. So this, in fact, does its own magical damage. You don't have to put it onto a unit that's doing magical damage. It just does its own just by having that item, which is kind of cool. And now we get into the epics here. All right. Did we already talk about this? No, we didn't. So attack increased by 30. Your attack reduces the target armor by 15 for 5 seconds. It kind of just pairs with the Crystal Devil of Blood. And then you have to have 2 of the Rune Hammers to go along with it in order to create that same combo. Again, just put it onto your damage dealer because if they're attacking that unit, okay, you guys get it by now. It's like being a dead horse. Wraith Crystal. This is by having 2 of the Wraith Shards. I've had this item before. It's kind of fun. But your attack speed increases by 70% just by having a Wraith Shard, so it just really boosts your attack already. This I've already talked about as well. Attack damage increased by 80. Attack speed increased by 10. Your attack cannot be dodged either. So if you're fighting against feathered units, like this is OP. And then these ones, they just get a little bit better as you go along. So you pair the Magicka Staff with a Elf Headwear if you want to, or you can pair it with this as well if you want to do more magic damage that way and then just kind of stop there. But if you say, hey Clay, I got like 7 of these Magicka Staffs one round and I kept combining it and it wasn't changing. Well, it is changing. It's gaining just a little bit more each time you upgrade it, and you just upgrade it by putting a Magicka Staff onto that, onto that, onto that, onto that. So just to kind of explain it to you, Magicka Staff with Elf Headwear equals Pulse Staff. Pulse Staff 1 plus another Magicka Staff equals Pulse Staff 2. Pulse Staff 2 plus Magicka Staff equals Pulse Staff 3. And that's how you get all the way up to the Pulse Staff level 5, which is insane. Orb of Regen, refresh shop. We already talked about this. Heart of Tarask. This is, I believe, something we already talked about as well. It just increases your HP. Restore 1% of max health every 2 seconds. I would put that onto your tank unit. And we pretty much talked about everything else. Mjolnir, or Mjolnir, however you want to say this. Attack damage increased by 50. Attack speed increased by 30%. Grants 25% chance on attack, dealing 200 magical damage to at most 5 enemy pieces. It's like a Mealstorm. It's like a meal hurricane. Like a hurricane of meals. And then the Scythe of Vice, we've been over that. And then this is just increase your attack damage by 150. So yeah, that's literally it. And you guys know everything you need to know about items now. And if you have any questions, of course, leave them in the comment section below. I am going to make a separate video talking about different types of like frontline tanks and backline damage dealers very soon. It's gonna be super in-depth and it's gonna help you guys out a lot. So if you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching. As always, stay soupy, don't be potatoes. I'll see you guys on Twitch every single day, and as well as my next video that's coming out probably tomorrow. All right, peace.